are doing linear equation word problems, and there are 4 types. The first type in the word problem, the 4 types are based on the information that the word problem gives you. So the first type is just your basic slope-intercept form, which is the y equals mx plus b. Okay, so basically they will give you an m, which is a rate of change, and they will give you the b, which is your y-intercept, or a starting point, okay? Now the second type, it's standard form. Now the standard form type problems gives you 2 pieces of information, and that'll end up, and a total. So it's gonna be of the form ax plus by equals c for standard form. The second type will be point slope, where they give you one set of complete information that's going to be your x comma y, your point, and the slope, which is going to be one rate of change in your problem. And then basically the last one, you're going to be given 2 sets of related information. So basically, with the 2 sets of related information, you're going to end up calculating the slope using the subtracting the y's over subtracting the x's, and then choosing one of those points with your slope to do the point slope formula, similar to here where you're going to use the point slope formula. Okay, so there's 4 types of problems, and then the last section in the notes basically has them mixed up to basically test, can you recognize the different types of information that the word problem gives you. So first of all, when you're given a rate of change, which is your slope or your m, the key word you're looking for is the per, okay? And the starting point is your b. So like a starting point could be your base fee. Like if you're renting a moving truck, there's a base fee and then you have a miles per hour. Well, the base fee is your b, and then the miles per hour is going to be your slope. So, like in number 1, you and your friends plan to attend the county fair for this weekend. The admission for the fair is $5, and the cost per ride is 50 cents. Now, as soon as I see this per, I automatically know that that's my rate of change. That's my m. And when it's an admission, that's kind of like your base fee. That's your starting amount, or your y-intercept. Now it says, okay, so first part, we're going to use the m that's 50 cents and the b that's $5, so you're going to get y equals 0.50x plus 5. Now 0.50 cents, that's the same thing as 1/2 or half of a dollar, so you could also write it as 1/2 x plus 5, okay? Now the second part, or maybe let's call this A, the second part of the problem, if your parents give you $20, it says write and solve a linear equation to find out how many rides you can go on. Well, the write, that's like part A, the solve is part B with this total, okay? So this is the total. Well, guess what? This is the answer. Actually, either one of these is the answer for part A. As soon as you can give, when you write the equation, it's going to be in y equals mx plus b. In fact, let's write that down. So just note, when they say write an equation, you want to give it in y equals mx plus b. Okay. Now part B, if they have a total, that's your y for the slope-intercept form. So you would put 20 has to equal, so $20 is your total, has to equal your 50 cents per ride. I'm going to use the 1/2 x plus 5 because we can always, it's always faster to do the reciprocal once we solve for x than it is to have to get a calculator out and divide by 2. So in other words, like for example, I'm going to subtract 5 on both sides. So you get 15. Actually, I'm going to put the 15 on the left side, and then you have 1/2 x. To finish solving for the x, we multiply by the reciprocal, which is 2 over 1. But on the right-hand side, we don't need the fraction, over here, the 2's divide out, and you get 1 over 1x, which is just x, equals 30. And since it's how many rides? It's 30 rides. Another way you can think of it, see how it says for your slope, the cost per ride? When you do the y equals mx plus b, whatever's after the per is the x. So maybe we'll also say your word after per is your x label. So when it says cost per ride, it's kind of like mx. The x is the number of rides, and that's what they're looking for when it says write and solve a linear equation to find how many rides. That's another way you could check to say, oh, I'm looking for the x, not the y. So that might be another way you can know that, well, they tell us the $20 is for the y since we're solving for the number of rides, which cost per ride, the m, and the x has to be the number of rides. So that'll help indicate that, oh, we're plugging in the 20 for the y. All right, so let's look at number 2. It says, while your family is visiting Deep Creek Lake, you and your mother decide to go boating. The rangers charge $6.50 per hour in addition to a $25 deposit to rent a canoe. So right away, that per tells me that it's going to be the m. So the m, actually let me write it down here. So the m is going to be $6.50 per hour. So remember, after the per, that the x is going to be the number of hours, okay? In addition to a $25 deposit, that's your initial or your starting amount, okay? That it doesn't matter how long you're renting the canoe for, that $25 doesn't change, so that's your starting amount, okay? So for part A, all we have to do when it says write and solve, I'm just going to plug in the m and the b, so we have y equals $6.50 x plus 25. So that's your first answer. Now the part B for solving, it says if you wish to rent a canoe from 12:30 to 3:30 p.m., it says write and solve a linear equation to find the total cost. Well, first of all, 12:30 to 3:30 p.m., that's 3 hours. Remember how we said the word after the hours, or sorry, the word after the per, which is hours in this case, is the x. So we're going to plug in x equals 3 hours. And basically to find the total cost, that's going to be your y value. So in our y equals mx plus b, we're going to do y equals $6.50 times 3 plus that $25 that is the deposit. So if you get your calculator out, order of operations, we don't need to solve, we just do the multiplication, then we add the 25 because we know what the x is. Here we had to do our solving because we didn't know what x is. So first of all, $6.50 times 3 hours, well, that's going to be $19.50 plus 25. That gives us a total of $44.50 for the total cost. Okay. So I want you to pause and try number 3 and 4. Standard form, which we know is the ax plus by equals c. Well, the nice thing about standard form is you're using when the problem relates two separate quantities. Okay, so let's say, for example 5, Sam ordered 2 tacos and 3 enchiladas for lunch at the restaurant. His bill came to $7.80. The tacos and the enchiladas are the 2 separate quantities. And then the C value is going to be your total cost. So basically, when you're using AX plus BY, you know the A and the X and the Y are the two separate quantities. So in this case, X is going to be the tacos and Y is going to be the cost for the enchiladas. So basically, these are the easiest, I promise. And then C is always the total. So for part A, where it says write the equation, all we have to do is do 2x plus 3y equals the total, which is $7.80. And again, the nice thing, you probably want to just write down that tacos, the price for tacos is X and the price for enchiladas is Y. So this is your answer. And actually, you know what? Remember how I said when it says write the equation, give it in y equals mx plus b? For these problems, I'm okay with just having the standard form. There's no need to solve for y because, like in part B, it says if enchiladas were $2. So we're going to plug in $2 for the y. So if we have 2x plus 3y, oh no, what did I say I was going to plug in for y? The $2 because it says the enchiladas were $2 each, so it's 3 times 2. Solve the linear equation to find the cost of each taco. And then we said that the cost he paid was $7.80. Okay. So that's just 2x plus 6 equals $7.80. We subtract 6, $6, and we get 2x equals $1.80. Oh my gosh. So now we just divide by 2. Well, $1.80 divided by 2 is 90 cents. And basically, since X is the tacos, then basically it's 90 cents per taco. And that's our final answer. Okay. So let's look at number 6. It says, tickets at a school play cost $4 in advance or $5 at the door. So I'm going to call that my X value and my Y value. The total for the tickets for an evening production was $440. Well, that's going to be my C value when we plug in AX plus BY equals C. Now it says if no tickets were sold in advance, okay, so if no tickets were sold, you're going to have your X is 0. You know what? I just realized something. This should have been, this will be your A, and this will be your B. Okay, but the X are the number of advance tickets, and your Y is the number of at-the-door tickets. Okay, so the $4 I'm going to put as your A, and X is the number of advance tickets. $5 is your B for your number of at-the-door tickets, and that's your Y. The total is C. So for part A, where you're asked to write an equation, we're just going to do the AX plus BY equals C. So it's going to be 4X plus 5Y equals the total, which is $440. Okay, and we'll just leave it like that. Now for part B, see where it says if no tickets were sold in advance. Remember, X represents the number of advance tickets. We're going to do, that's 0 because that's no tickets sold in advance. So it's 4 times 0 plus, then we have our 5Y equals $440. Well, 4 times 0 is just 0 plus 5Y. We just have 5Y equals 440. So we divide by 5, and basically Y is the number of tickets sold at the door, right? And then basically that's just going to be 88. So we have 88 tickets at the door. Okay. So go ahead and pause the video and try 7 and 8 on your own, and then bring questions to class. Type problems. Well, first of all, the point slope formula, is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And that was for the previous notes that we did and homework 4.5 and 4.6. Well, we know we're going to use the point slope formula when the problem gives a sample point, which we're going to plug in as our x1 and our y1, and a rate of change, which is basically the slope, or the m. Well, let me help you understand how to tell if it's related. It's basically two related quantities. Your x1, y1 is two related quantities. Okay, for this point. So number 9, it says, at Eagle Bay, it costs $10 per hour. Boy, that didn't. To rent a canoe. Well, right away, that per tells me that that's your M. And then the hour tells me X represents hours, or the number of hours. So I know I'm going to end up writing an equation, so I'm just going to write, okay, well, the M is $10. Oops, I don't know why I wrote 8. $10 per hour. It says Nick and his friends rented a canoe for 3 hours. Remember we said that after the per is your X, so that's your X, comma, and they paid $45. So guess what? The Y is going to be your total cost. So if they paid $40, then we know the Y is the total cost. And that's, since the 3 hours is connected to the $45, that's our point. That's our two related quantities. Okay? So then we're going to go ahead and use the point slope formula, and we're going to do y minus the y value, which is 45, equals our m, which is 10, times x minus the x. Now we just distribute. So y minus 45 equals 10x minus 30. Add our 45. And for part A, we get y equals 10x plus 15. Now for part B, notice it says, well, we took care of that, part A, and solve in a linear, so basically solve this equation to find the cost to rent the canoe for 8 hours. Now remember, we said that after the per was hours, and that represents your x since we have mx. So we plug in x equals 8 into this equation. So basically it's just y equals 10 times 8 plus 15. Well, since we know what x is, basically we're just doing order of operations. We're going to multiply and then add, so we get y equals 80 plus 15. So the total cost is going to be $95. And that's for the total cost of 8 hours. Okay. Now if you look at number 10, it says a construction company charges $15 per hour. So we know that's the M, and the per hour, we know the X's are the number of hours, because after the per is always your X. For debris removal, basically trash removal. Plus a one-time fee for the use of the trash dumpster. Well, that's going to be your B. The one-time fee is your B. It says the total fee for 9 hours of service was $195. Remember we said X was hours? So basically, we know the M is $15 per hour, and the two related quantities is that it costs, for 9 hours, the total cost was $195. So your X is the hours and your Y is the total cost. Well, now we just use the point slope formula. So we have y minus the y, 195, equals the m, which is 15, times x minus the x, which is 9. So we're going to distribute that. So we get y minus 195 equals 15x, and then 15 times minus 9 is minus 135. So we're going to add 195 and we get y equals 15x. And then basically, if we subtract these, there's more positives. And 195 minus 35 is 60. Okay, so this is our part A. Now part B, it says, and solve a linear equation to find the one-time fee. Well, we know the one-time fee is basically the y-intercept, or basically the b in the y equals mx plus b. So for part B, we don't even need to solve anything, frankly. We just know that the b value is 60, and so that's the one-time fee, is $60 for the one-time fee, and we're done. Okay. So go ahead, do 11 and 12 on your own, then check the answer key, so pause the video. And all right, so the last part says the problem gives 2 sample points. So we talked about sample points were 2 related values, like the x and the y, 2 related values. So you get an x1, a y1, but then you're also going to get an x2 and a y2 just to represent the first point that are connected and the second point that are connected. Now if you remember, this is a 2-step problem. When you're given 2 points, the first thing you have to do is find your m by doing your delta y over delta x, which basically means you subtract the y's over you subtract the x's and reduce to find your slope. And then your second, you would just choose 1 point and the m to use the y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, like we did over here. We're still using the same equation, point-slope formula, except because we're going to be given 2 points, first thing we do is we calculate the slope like we did since the first lesson of this unit, and then we just choose one of them, which my tip is always to use the smaller points, smaller numbers of the 2 points, and then you just plug it into this equation. So let's look at identifying the 2 related sets of information. So number 13, it says, to surf the internet for 25 minutes at an internet cafe, it costs $7.25. So that's 1 point. 25 minutes, it costs $7.25. The y is going to be your total cost. Okay. Then it says for 40 minutes, it costs $9.80, and I underline those twice since that's your second pair of related information. So we have 40 minutes costs $9.80. Okay. So the first thing we have to do is subtract the y's and then subtract the x's. So for this case, I'm going to get my slope, and I'm going to do the bigger minus the smaller since both are bigger in the second point. So I'm going to do $9.80 minus $7.25 over the 40 minutes minus 25 minutes. So in my calculator, I get $9.80 minus $7.25. So I get $2.55 over, well, 40 minus 25 is 15. And for word problems like this, you're going to want to divide the top by the bottom and get a decimal. So if I do $2.55 divided by 15, I get 17 cents. So 0.17 cents per minute. Okay? Because our m always has the per. And then the minutes, like we said, are the x values, like we did over here. So whatever word follows the per is your x, since m always is in front of x. All right, now we have to choose one of these points. It doesn't matter, but I'm going to choose this point with my slope, my m. So I get y minus the y, $7.25 equals 0.17 times the x minus the x, which is 25. I distribute that, so I'm going to use my calculator, so I get y minus $7.25 equals 0.17x, and then 0.17 times 25 is $4.25, so it's going to be minus $4.25. I'm going to add the $7.25, and you can use your calculator, but there's going to be only $3 difference, so it's going to be 17 cents per minute x plus $3 as the minimum fee. So that's your part A question. Now for the solve part, it says write a linear equation to find the cost for surfing the web for 1 hour. Now the thing is, 1 hour is how many minutes, because x is in minutes. So for part B, we have to know that 1 hour equals 60 minutes. So we're going to plug in 60 for x, not 1. So in this equation, and I'm going to have to write kind of small, we get y equals 0.17 times 60 plus 3. Now we have to do order of operations, multiply, and then add. So basically, we do 0.17 times 60, which is $10.20, plus 3, which I can just mental math, that's $13.20. So the total cost for 1 hour is going to be $13.25. Okay, so let's look at number 14. So it says, water boils at 100 degrees Celsius or 212 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm underlining those together because that's one set of related points. If this is the x and this is the y, because 100 degrees Celsius is 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Now it says water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So these I'm going to underline twice because that's our second point. So for part A, I'm going to have 100 degrees Celsius is our x and 212 degrees Fahrenheit is our y. That's one pair of related points, or information for 1 point. Then the second one is 0 degrees Celsius for the x and 32 degrees Fahrenheit for the y. So anytime we're given 2 points, we're going to use the delta y over delta x. So first thing we find is our slope. I'm going to be doing the 212 minus 13 for the y's, or sorry, 212 minus 32 over the 100 minus 0. Well, 212 minus 32 is 180 divided by, well, 100 minus 0 is just 100. And then basically I could divide out the zeros, which is dividing by 10 in the numerator and denominator, and then 18 divided by 10 is just 1.8. And basically that's our slope. Now we choose whatever point. I'm going to choose this one because they're smaller. So the nice thing is we get y minus 32 equals the 1.8 for our m times x minus 0. I love it when we have zeros because it just makes it easier. When I distribute, I don't even need to worry about 1.8 times 0 because that's just 0. So I have y minus 32 equals 1.8x, and then you could do minus 0, but you don't really need the minus 0. All we have to do is add 32 to both sides. So we get y equals 1.8x plus 32, and that's our equation for the right. That's part A. Now we have to solve the linear equation to find what Fahrenheit temperature this is. It says, okay, let me read the last sentence. If the weather forecaster says it will be 25 degrees Celsius today, well, guess what? Remember the Celsius is our x? So we're going to plug in x is 25 to our part A answer. So for part B, we're going to do y equals 1.8 times 25 plus 32 to find the Fahrenheit, because the Fahrenheit is the y. Well, order of operations, we just do 1.8 times 25. So 1.8 times 25. So that's going to be 45 plus 32, which ends up being 77 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's going to be 77 degrees Fahrenheit because our y are the Fahrenheit degrees. So pause the video and I want you to do 15 and 16, and you're looking for the 2 points, 2 sample points, in other words, the 2 quantities that are related, 2 related quantities, to find your slope first, then choose one of the points with your slope and plug it into this formula, the y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Then what I want you to do is look at 17 through 28. Do your best. See if you can figure out which type of the problem, what information the problem gives, and what type, and then try and solve it on your own, okay? And when we do our warm-up next class, we're going to go through these to make sure that you understand them and bring questions.